Dahil Chin, Urano'y Pailan Sai, Anuben, Tarasale Pailan. Tonight, you build and wire Sting, code it to do your bidding in the Battle of Helm's Sheep by hacking a PS2 controller.
Whoa.
Then push the magnificent code you wrote to a fresh GitHub repository.
This bot, it's a push on all technical fronts. But tonight, Sting's code is the star of the show.
Are you ready? Hey-o! Let's begin with the mechanical side of things. Also, I'm sick, so I probably sound like a little troll. Okay, step 1. Grab Dark Rider, and we need to swap what end is the front of the robot. So you're gonna remove the tires off the old back wheels and wrap them onto the new back wheels. And you're also gonna switch which wires go into the motor cables. Also take off the L brackets. All right, step 2. You're gonna grab 2 1-hole channels, 1 3-hole pattern plate, 1 short 90-degree L bracket, 1 25mm bottom tapped motor mount, 4 dual side mounts of type A, 18 1/4-inch screws, 2 3/8-inch screws, and 2 nylock nuts. All right, so on one of your channels, you're gonna attach dual side mounts to both inner sides with the 1/4-inch screws. Then on both channels, you're gonna screw in a dual side mount on the inner ends. With 2 1/4-inch screws, grab your pattern plate and screw in the motor mount 1, 2, 3 outer holes in from the edge. Then grab the 3/8-inch screws and nuts and screw the outer holes of the short 90-degree bracket 3 holes in from the outer edge. It should look like this! Now you're gonna line the structure up with the dual side mount holes on the channels and use 4 1/4-inch screws to lock it down. And finally, you're gonna mount the channels across the leftmost 3 large holes of the back cross channel. Step 3, go ahead and grab 1 12-volt DC motor and cable sleeve, 1 4mm to 1/4-inch shaft coupler, 1 1.5-inch D shaft, 1 bearing, 1 shaft spacer, 1 shaft collar, 1 set screw D hub, 4 3/8-inch 632 screws, 1 1/2-inch 632 screw, 1 1/2-inch standoff, and 1 80-tooth gear. Alright, throw a cable sleeve on the motor wires to protect them. Then secure a shaft coupler against the flat face of your motor shaft and slide the motor into the motor mount and tighten the clamping screw down. Into the short 90-degree L bracket, you're gonna pop a bearing, then slide the shaft into the coupler until it stops. You're gonna tighten the coupler on the flat face of the shaft. Then onto the shaft, slide a shaft spacer, followed by a shaft collar, and tighten against the flat face. Now into the depressed side of your gear, you're gonna screw down the D hub. Somewhere in the outer ring of holes, you're going to secure the 1/2-inch standoff with your 1/2-inch screw. Then slide the D-hub onto the shaft and tighten down. Booyah! Alright, step 4. You're going to grab 1 dual side mount E, 2 big rubber bands, ours are size 82, 2 short 90-degree L brackets, 2 5-hole pattern plates, 8 3/8-inch screws, 2 1/4-inch screws, and 8 nylock nuts. So, switching to the front of the bot, right in line with the center hole of the cross channel, mount the dual side mount E with the rubber bands looped around it. We're going to come back to this later. Then screw together the 5-hole pattern plates and the short L brackets in 2 different places. Then screw these 2 holes of the short side of the bracket into these 2 holes on the channel. Should look like this when you're done. Alright, step 5. You are gonna grab 1 7-hole aluminum beam, 1 11-hole aluminum beam, 1 1/4-inch spacer or standoff, a 1/4-inch standoff, 1 1/2-inch spacer or standoff, 2 1-inch screws, a regular nut, 1 1 1/4-inch screw, 3 nylock nuts, 1 beam attachment block type A, and 2 washers. Okay, onto your 1 1/4-inch screw, slide a beam attachment block, the 1/2-inch spacer, and the very last hole of the 11-hole beam, then a nylock nut. Now tighten it down, but keep in mind that you're going to be making adjustments to the tightness later. Then on the 1-inch screw, slide the 7-hole beam, a 1/4-inch spacer, the other end hole of the 13-hole beam, and a nylock nut. And finally, with the other 1-inch screw, slide on the washers and screw on the regular nut, pop off the 80-tooth gear, then find the outer hole exactly opposite the standoff on your gear. Then you're gonna go 1 hole in and push the screw through. Slide on a 1/4-inch spacer, the other end hole of the 7-hole beam, and a nylock nut. All right, step 6. Go ahead and grab one 16-hole pattern plate, one catapulter, one dual side mount type E, two beam attachment blocks of type A, two 1/8" spacers, one 1/2" screw, a medium washer, two 3/4" screws, 5 1/4" screws, and 3 nylock nuts. Loop the other ends of the rubber bands around the dual side mount and screw it into the end holes of the pattern plate. Then on the corner holes of the mounted pattern plates, you're going to feed through the 3/4" screws, and onto the screws you're going to feed an 1/8" spacer, a beam attachment block, and then secure with a nylock nut. You want it tight enough to not wobble, but loose enough for the attachment blocks to be able to rotate easily. Then grab your 15-hole pattern plate, count 4 outer holes up from the dual side mount screws, and that's the hole you're going to use to securely screw the pattern plate to the attachment blocks. Get her tight, and now this should be able to rotate. Then on the other end of the pattern plate, you're going to count down 10 holes, jump one in, pop a screw through, and tightly screw into the beam attachment block attached to the 13-hole beam. On the end of the pattern plate, you're going to screw down the catapulter of doom using the 1/2" screw, washer, and nylock nut. Step 7. On the 3 screws and nuts attached to the beams, mess with the tightness until they can rotate with a little friction but are not wobbly at all. Yeah. Step 8. Grab the L bracket with the switch, two 3/8" screws, and a nylock nut. Now on the right back side channel, screw down your L bracket, one 3/8" screw into the channel cap, and the other secured with a nut. Step 9. You're going to grab one L bracket, a 6-hole pattern plate, one PS2 receiver plugged into the breakout board with the mounting hardware, 6 extra long female to male jumper wires. Ours are, I believe, 30 centimeters. And we're using black, red, blue, yellow, orange, and green. One long cable sleeve, 4 3/8" screws, one 1/4" screw, 3 nylock nuts, a 1/4" standoff, and a zip tie. Okay, so here's the color guide that I'm using for wiring the PS2 receiver. Ground is black, 5 volts is red, clock or CLK is blue, attention or ATT is yellow, command or CMD is orange, and data or DAT is green. Then you're gonna wrap the wires in a cable sleeve. Okay, so 2 middle holes from the top of the pattern plate, you're gonna screw in your standoff with a 1/4" screw. Then set the pattern plate on the L bracket and slide up until 2 holes line up. Secure them. Then you're going to use the mounting hardware to mount the PS2 receiver in the lowest available holes on the pattern plate. Then screw that L bracket down into the left back channel cap and use another screw and nut to secure in another hole. Then secure that receiver against the standoff with a zip tie and route the wires through one of the channels that the catapult motors is mounted into. Step 10. This limit switch is going to tell the catapult motor when the catapult has hit the reload point. So you're going to go ahead and grab one limit switch with wires soldered onto the common and normally open tabs, a small cable sleeve, a 3/4" screw, a 1/4" screw, and a beam attachment block of type B. Go ahead and screw the 3/4" screw through the lower hole on the limit switch. Screw on the beam attachment block and make sure it's tight and facing down. Count 10 right edge holes up the catapult arm, then use the 1/4" screw to screw in the beam attachment block. And finally, you're gonna wrap a cable sleeve around the wires. Step 11. Now this handy dandy sensor is going to tell us when Sting is close to the barricade. So you're going to go ahead and grab one HC SR04 ultrasonic distance sensor, an ultrasonic sensor mounting case, 2 3/4" screws, 2 nylock nuts, 4 female to male jumper wires, and a cable sleeve. Plug a red wire into voltage input or VIN, a wire into trig, a wire into echo, and a black wire into ground or GND. Pop your ultrasonic sensor into its case and mount it onto the front of your robot. I'm going to use these holes. Boom, cable sleeve it and let the wires dangle for now. All right, step 12. All right, so check this out. If you twist the gear, you'll see that the standoff will catch the first beam. It's gonna rotate it around until it goes past the center mark where it'll snap and launch stuff into the sky. This type of mechanism is called a choo-choo mechanism or a choo-choo linkage. And there you go, you have a fresh Sting. All right, circuit masters, rise up. Before we begin, make sure the battery's disconnected and off the bot. We also want to connect one more terminal to battery power. So let's swap out this 3 long barrier strip with a 4 long barrier strip. All right, step 1, you're gonna grab a motor driver from Pololu, 2 fork connector to male DuPont connector wires, and a length of cable sleeve. Screw the fork connector of the red wire to the new positive terminal that we just hooked up, and the same goes for the negative side. Wrap those in a cable sleeve, then screw the positive wire into the terminal block on the motor driver labeled VIN, voltage input, and the negative wire to ground. Step 2, you're gonna grab 4 female-to-male jumper wires, 2 male-to-male jumper wires, 2 cable sleeves, 2 half-inch screws, and 2 nylock nuts. Okay, so since only one motor is gonna get connected to this motor driver, we just need to connect jumper wires to input A1, input A2, and PWMA. And ground, of course. So sleeve these suckers, I move the ground up the other motor driver down to another ground pin, plug the ground wire into a ground pin on the Mega, and here's how I'm hooking up the other 3 pins. Input A1 to pin 8, input A2 to pin 9, and PWMA to pin 10. And use the 2 male-to-male jumper wires to connect the positive motor wire to the positive A terminal block, and the negative motor wire to the negative A terminal block. One more sleeve and we're good to go. Checkpoint. Have the official electrical inspector double check and approve the wiring that you just did to make sure that all positives connect to positives and all negatives connect to negatives. Finally, grab a couple of 632 screws and nylock nuts to secure this freshly planted motor driver. Step 3! Alright, next I'm gonna pop up these ultrasonic sensor wires through a hole on the pegboard, and I'll plug them into the Arduino. Okay, so it needs 5 volts of power, which the Arduino can supply. So I'm gonna plug the 5 volt jumper wire into a 5 volt pin on the Arduino. The trig and echo pins can plug into any digital pin on the Arduino, except for leave pins 50 through 53 open for the PS2 controller. I'm gonna do 46 for trig and 48 for echo. To complete the circuit and allow electricity to flow through Sting's veins, you need to ground it to the Arduino by connecting the ground wire to a ground pin. Alright, step 4. So you're gonna hook up the 5 volt wire to 5 volts on the Arduino, ground pin goes to ground on the Arduino. And for the other 4, we need to use very specific digital pins. So command to 50, data to 51, clock to 52, and attention to 53. Booyah! Alright, step 5. On your limit switch, this is the common contact, this is the normally open contact, and this is the normally closed contact. The way to wire this cool kid is to wire the common contact to a ground pin, and the normally open contact to the digital pin of your choice. I'm gonna do pin 22. And finally, just your friendly neighborhood reminder that if you need to change up the wiring on your robot for any reason, make sure power is disconnected. Robot off, battery unplugged, you good to go. If you need to do side quests, check the description.
Now you're ready for some coding, robot trainer. Click the link in the description or that little box on this weird screen that's right here, and it'll take you to that Mad Liddy coding tutorial. Pull up.